Let's get some more on all of this. Congressman David Cicilline is joining us. He's a Democrat who serves on the Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committees. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. I want to get your reaction to the New York Times reporting that President Trump asked the acting Attorney General, Matt Whitaker, if the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jeffrey Berman, could unrecuse himself to take control of the Michael Cohen investigation. Does this request, if it's confirmed, rise to the level of obstruction of justice?
I think there's no question that if this reporting is accurate, this is just another data point of an ongoing effort by this president to impede this investigation and to obstruct justice. We should recall that there are 199 criminal charges that have been filed. There have been 37 defendants. There have been 7 convictions and 4 people sentenced to prison. The president has described this as a witch hunt, has tried to undermine the special counsel's investigation, but is now clearly concerned about the Southern District of New York. And to call up the acting attorney general and say, can't you install someone who's favorable to me to this investigation, is completely inappropriate, clearly an effort to impede or undermine the investigation and protect himself, and would constitute obstruction of justice if true.
Matt Whitaker testified before your committee, the House Judiciary Committee, earlier in the month. Do you believe he perjured himself?
Well, Mr. Whitaker was very evasive. He kept referring to his opening statement, which basically said, I didn't make any commitments or promises to the president. But when we probed him directly about what the president said to him, whether he had expressed dissatisfaction or expressed some opinions about these investigations, he sort of avoided that answer. So he created the impression that there was no discussion with the president about any investigation, when we know, if this reporting is true, that that is inaccurate. So the chairman of the committee sent a letter to Mr. Whitaker requesting clarification on a number of issues, and indicated that if he didn't provide that, we would have him back before the committee in a deposition. But he clearly misled the committee and may have been providing incorrect or false information.
Because you specifically asked Whitaker about CNN's reporting that President Trump lashed out at Whitaker after Michael Cohen implicated the president in his guilty plea. Whitaker denied it. Do you think he was lying to you?
Well, and I went further and said, well, because then I thought, well, maybe he will think it wasn't lashing out. So I said lashing out or expressing dissatisfaction of any kind. And he said no. Well, we know now if this reporting is true, they both can't be true. So if this reporting is true, the president called about replacing the U.S. attorney. Presumably that was because he was dissatisfied about what was happening with Michael Cohen and the guilty plea. I doubt it was, let me replace the U.S. attorney because he deserves a vacation because he's doing great work. So both can't be true, the reporting and Mr. Whitaker's testimony. So it's really important for him to come back before the committee and either clarify that or correct it.
And I just want to be precise. Will your committee subpoena Whitaker to answer additional questions?
Yes, I think the chairman made it clear that he expected Mr. Whitaker to return for a deposition. If he doesn't do that voluntarily, then the committee will exercise its authority to require him to appear for a deposition. But before he left our committee room, there were many unanswered questions, contradictions in his testimony, evasive answers, and the chairman made it clear that we have a responsibility to get the truth. The American people deserve that, and he's going to be back before the committee for that purpose.
According to this explosive New York Times report today, Whitaker told associates over at the Justice Department that part of his role was to, quote, jump on a grenade for the president. He told others that the Southern District of New York prosecutors needed what he called adult supervision. Do you think those comments reflect any direction he might have received from the president?
Well, it certainly reflects the direction that he thought he should take as the leader of the Justice Department. And it evidences, again, the president's fundamental misunderstanding about the role of the Attorney General. It's the same comments he made about Jeff Sessions. The Attorney General represents the United States. He's there to do justice. He doesn't represent the President of the United States. He's not there to protect the President. He's there to protect the Constitution and the rule of law. The idea that Mr. Whitaker understood that his responsibility was to jump on a grenade and protect the president is exactly the reason that Mr. Whitaker never had any business being in that position, because he was really there to protect the president, to try to protect him from these ongoing investigations. He basically auditioned for the job on television by diminishing and attacking the special counsel on his investigation. So it's clear that's what his intention was. It's clear that's why the president picked him sort of out of thin air, but it's precisely why he had no business being the acting Attorney General of the United States.
We also got more news from the former FBI Deputy Director, the Acting Director, Andrew McCabe. He was fired, as you know. He confirmed that he has been interviewed by Robert Mueller and that the special counsel has contemporaneous notes or memos that he wrote about all of his interactions with President Trump. How significant is that?
It's very significant. You know, agents such as Director McCabe are trained to record in contemporaneous reporting conversations they have in connection with investigations that are ongoing. That is compelling evidence to support his testimony. So the fact that he has been interviewed by Mr. Mueller, I think, is very, very serious.
Congressman Cicilline, thanks so much for joining us.